Let me begin by congratulating you, Boris, on your continued stewardship of the Security Council for the month of February 2021. And let me say, Mr. President, that I also welcome this high-level debate as our understanding of climate change continues to reveal its important role as a multiplier of existing threats to international peace and security. The international community has responded elsewhere to the threat of climate change with ambitious solutions that are actually transforming economic development through investment that seeks to minimize environmental, social, as well as governance harms. But I also believe, as has been stated by previous speakers, that to ensure that these new approaches to investment by the public and private sector reach the countries and regions worst hit by climate change. I believe as a start we can recognize that the persistent droughts and constant sea level rises and increasingly frequent extreme weather patterns are reversing economic gains and development gains achieved over decades. The result is increased fragility, increased instability that leads to armed conflict that then comes to the attention of this Security Council. So the implementation of the Council's mandate to maintain global peace and security will only get more difficult with time if climate change remains a persistent course. And rather than wait for a future tipping point, we must redouble our efforts today to direct our resources and multilateral frameworks of all our rule-based international orders to mitigate the effects of climate change. While the bulk of this work is happening outside the Security Council, as it should be, nobody with such a strong mandate should step aside from this challenge. And that is why it is one of our priorities in Kenya during our term in the Security Council to clarify the importance of the climate and security nexus. Mr. President, the nexus is already impacting Africa, whose files dominate your Council's agenda. And in this regard, I would ask you to listen to us Africans when we tell you that there is a clear link that has impacted tangibly and therefore needs urgent solutions. Africa, unfortunately, will suffer the worst consequences of climate change, despite being the least responsible for global greenhouse gases. And projected climate changes for Africa suggest a future of increased water insecurity, decreased agricultural yields, encroaching desert, as well as damaged coastal infrastructure. Examples abound on the consequences. The drought-stricken Horn of Africa, our part of the world, the drying of the Lake Chad Basin, the shrinking Sahel and savanna grasslands have worsened economic vulnerabilities and set in motion political, demographic, migratory dynamics that increase the threat of insurgency and violent extremism. Indeed, I do hope that the Council will listen more carefully and respond to the new innovative tools for climate-related conflict prevention and resilience building that can emerge from Peace-Building Commission and the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and the UN Environmental Programme. And I strongly urge these bodies to link early warning systems that map climate change hotspots to decision-making. Tools that enable conflict prevention at national, regional, as well as international levels. Such tools include the building of a dynamic and accessible modeling at the national, regional levels that allow government and the multilateral, as well as private sector, to deploy solutions in a security-conscious, forward-looking manner. For such innovative work to have policy impact, it will require democratized access to critical data and much more data sharing with African institutions, engineers, as well as researchers. in crafting mandates for conflict resolution and post-conflict resolution, we can do more to ensure that they dovetail with the efforts to deploy climate change mitigation and adaptation measures. And in this regard, I want to applaud the Security Council Resolution 2349 on Lake Chad and 2502 in the Democratic Republic of Congo with regard to MONUSCO that have created measures to address the impact of climate change. Fragile countries experiencing armed conflict or the threat of it receive little public or private investment. The lack of employment and opportunity in turn worsens the political as well as the security crisis. The Council and relevant UN and international financial institutions that respond to its resolutions can help alleviate this challenge by aligning conflict resolution, peacekeeping, humanitarian aid, post-conflict reconstruction with job creation by the domestic private sector. Another important and prompt action that the Council can take to boost peace and security in the most fragile regions in Africa is to act strongly against illicit financial outflows, illicit resource exploitation, terrorism financing, and money laundering. And in this regard, Mr. Prime Minister, I laud you and your government for your efforts in this regard. Doing so immediately boosts the resources available to government to undertake climate change mitigation and offer the public services and goods needed to consolidate and protect our peace. It also disrupts the negative forces who worsen the threat of climate change by making it tougher to tackle its security impact. So in conclusion, Mr. President, let me affirm that Kenya will remain a strong voice for Africa, for the global South, including small island developing states, in making the case for climate change and security nexus. The world expects results and is looking forward to this Security Council to ever more effectively fulfill its mandate. A growing part of that work is likely to involve the conflict impacts of climate change. Once again, Boris, I want to thank you for your invitation and thank you for putting us together. And I also want to thank all the members for their kind attention. Let's get to work. Let's see if we can make some progress towards this great end. Thank you very much.
Africa of all the continents has probably contributed the least to the global.
Sincere appreciation for his efforts.
Spark conflicts. In addition,
we'll have to deal with the security impacts of climate change.
It is our fundamental responsibility to prevent them.
And to map out a coherent approach, aiming for a working consensus.
Collective effort.